companies, which I don't want to mention. And after finishing the training, they didn't stop responding to my calls and as well as emails. They didn't market me, and they are not responding to me.
Okay, out here we basically do the foundation, that's your manual testing, then your Java, the core Java part, Selenium, and then the framework development on with Selenium rather, and we also teach you load runner, QTP on a very basic level, and then your resume building, your mock-up interviews, and then we have vendors in the US through whom we work to get you a job. So apparently it happens like that, if we find out that there is a problem with the particular person who's getting trained, we will basically sit down with the particular person on a one-to-one visit to understand where is the lack. In terms of marketing, what we generally do, we don't do placements directly, but we do have vendors in that part of the world through which we place people, and you directly basically give your give your thought process and your understanding with that particular vendor and after you get a job. So that's how it is. I have also trained people out here, and a lot of people have got jobs. So if we can basically bind up together and we see that you get a job, obviously the name of the company will come to the market, and you will also recommend us for different people. That's what we want to see. We don't want to be a company that just give training and just run away like that. You could also interact with me if you want on a one-to-one basis to understand it much more, or with Danny, and he will explain you how do we go forward in terms of your job. That starts with your mock-up interview after you finish up the training part, and then it starts with resume building, and then we make you connect with the vendors that we have who have requirements, job requirements rather, and then you interact with them and us, and then you get a job. It might be possible that you might not get placed in the first interview. It's always possible, because it depends on 2% of luck factors also out there. So, but make it sure that your understanding of this particular domain is very, very clear, where you have very good understanding of the foundations, that's your manual testing. Implement it on your automation, that is your Selenium, because Selenium is very hot in the market. And then we will have a lot of mock interviews and exercises as part of your training, and then make up your resume, build your resume according to what you have got trained and what is required in the market, and then place you somewhere in the market through our vendors in US. So that's how we go. And if there is a lack of confidence even after the training is there, you have to let us know that there is a lack of confidence. Then we need to have a couple of mock interviews before you go forward and speak to the vendor. And then obviously it's very much required that you do a SWOT analysis of yourself before you go for the real interviews. So that's how we basically do. You would not run away. You could basically speak one-to-one with me or with Danny or with Mark, and we'll try to place you somewhere, because we need to see that that if you get a job in the market, you are going to basically speak about the company. We will not speak, because that is how our understanding is. That's how Purnima it is.
Okay. And before the trainer, we used to have a lot of doubts actually, and we come up with the doubts, and she used to refuse, like, I'm going to tell you or clarify your doubts to the next class. It is like postponing the doubts, and we are not clear whether like what to do and what not to do. So
no, what we have out here is basically we do run a session, and at the end of session generally I tell the trainees to ask me questions. And we do have a site also, which is a site in which you will get all the session videos, plus there's a blog also in the site, which people have raised question on certain topics. And I generally look at this site and control the site in terms of giving answers to those particular answers being asked on a particular topic. And plus you have a procedure in which there are a lot of assignments given. So for example, this particular group where I am basically training, I have given a couple of time assignments, and you need to answer it to improve your skill sets, to improve your knowledge. Plus, as I told you, we do have a session in which at the end of it I generally ask them if you have any questions, and they ask questions and I give answers to that. It is not that if somebody is trying to avoid giving answers to the question, it primarily means that he or she doesn't have time, or he or she is basically not accustomed with the knowledge.
He might be like having the another session waiting.
Yeah, I generally, basically we generally take one trainer takes one session only on a particular day. That's all. So it's not like a fish market where you keep on taking sessions and you try to, you start refusing the people who are there in the earlier session asking you questions. We don't do like that. We only take one session on a particular day, that's all, and one trainer will take one session in a particular day. That makes us understand the people who are involved and understand what is the progress that they have. And I also have one thing into mind, that if people ask questions, that means they are interested in the session. They were interested in knowing about that particular topic. There are two levels of analysis of a person. One is if a person does not ask question, he or she is tremendously good in understanding and has a great IQ, or he or she is completely dumb. That is what my understanding is. So I generally love people asking me questions, and I try to give answers. Yeah, sometimes as a human being, you tend to not give answers because of the fact you do not know. So in that particular vector, I generally tell people I do not know it, I'll come back to it, because I am also a human being. But most of the time, whenever my trainees have asked me a question, I have applied that on that particular session, or they ask questions on the particular website on a blog, which everybody can see it, and I answer to it. Plus there are assignments also involved, which they do. Given, for example, for this particular set of trainees who are getting trained right now, I've given 2 assignments, and they have applied back to that. So that's how it is, Purnima.
Sounds good. And do you have class now? Are you taking class?
Yeah, I'm taking a session. It starts from 7 p.m. CST and up to, it goes up to 8:39, 9 o'clock sometimes.
Okay. And I like reside like in California, which is PST time. Can I join your class, so I'll get your
idea? You can join. You can join my class right now. Not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is the one webinar, or do I need to join another?
This is the one only. I believe you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Yeah. So we'll start this session after some time, just in 5 minutes time.
Okay.
People have already joined, but I'm expecting certain more people. There are quite a few. There are 6 people in this particular batch. So 3 people have already joined, and I expect 3 more people to join. So in another 5 minutes, I'm going to start this session.
Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah. Enter your system testing phase. So let us start with your the most important criteria. So we are still in the system testing phase, and I'm trying to explain you the concepts on your system testing right now. So it's happened something like that. You need to start your system testing phase. You should finish successfully. You need to successfully finish your integration testing phase. I'm writing in short form. Just understand it. Also, if you want to start your system testing phase or enter your system testing phase, you should also successfully finish smoke testing. That is also very important. So these are the true criteria. These are the two criteria to enter your system testing phase, but there are other entry criteria also. So whatever I am saying right now are nothing but your entry criteria to enter your system testing phase. That means the criteria should be met in order to enter your system testing phase. Now the question will arise to your mind is, what happens to the entry criteria for integration testing phase? What happens to the entry criteria for your unit testing phase? I will come to that. That's a separate kind of slide where I'll tell you about the entry criteria for each of these phases, like your unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and UAT. And all these phases will also have, along with entry criteria, something known as exit criteria. So entry criteria are nothing but criteria which will allow you to enter that particular phase of testing, and exit criteria will tell you the criteria through which you can now exit that particular phase of testing. So each of these phases that you see, so primarily there are 4 phases: unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and UAT. So each of these phases will have a entry criteria. Each of these phases will have a exit criteria. Now I have not told you about the entry exit criteria of all these phases. I have taught you about unit testing phase. I have taught you about integration testing phase. I am teaching right now about system testing phase, but never I have told you about what are these criteria to enter these phases and what are the criteria to exit out of these particular phases. Don't worry about that. I will come to it at the appropriate time. Now let us basically now concentrate on the system testing phase, where I told you that there are certain entry criteria through which you can enter your system testing phase. So one of the criteria is your successful completion or finishing your integration testing phase, ITP. And the other criteria, another most important criteria to enter your system testing phase is your successful completion or finishing of your smoke testing. Now as I told you yesterday, smoke testing is also known as your sanity testing, also known as build verification testing. So smoke or sanity or build verification, BVT. It's also known as BVT or build verification testing. Now understand one particular thing. We will do this particular type of testing called smoke testing in a particular way. So you finish up your ITP. The ITP is a short form for integration testing phase. Okay. Then you're supposed to enter your system testing phase. Now, in between that, you need to conduct your smoke testing. Here you conduct your smoke testing. Now if the smoke testing passes or it is successfully finished, then you can enter. If the smoke testing does not pass, it fails, then what you need to do, if it fails, you have to give the failure analysis or raise your bugs, okay, to the development department, and the development department is going to rectify those bugs, okay, and after rectification of the bug, you're supposed to get inside smoke testing and do retesting of the rectified bugs. And this cycle will keep on happening, this particular cycle will keep on happening unless your smoke testing is successful. So what I'm trying to say is, where does the smoke testing lie? It lies between your integration testing phase and system testing phase. You first finish up your integration testing, then you conduct smoke testing. If it is successful, enter your system testing phase. If it is not successful, that means smoke testing is not successful, you cannot enter your system testing phase. What you are supposed to do then, if it is not successful, it primarily means that you have got bugs, and those bugs should be given back to the development side for them to rectify it. The developers will rectify those bugs, and you need to do retesting of the smoke testing part. So retesting means again testing the bugs to check out if it has been rectified from the development side. So unless you have a successful smoke testing conducted, you cannot enter your system testing phase. So that is why it is also one of the important criteria to enter your system testing phase. Now, what do you do in smoke testing? That is a question that comes to your mind. You do nothing. You basically take important or critical scenarios of the application. Okay, all the critical scenarios or the basic features of the application. Critical scenarios or basic features. Basic features of the application, and you test it. Now, how do you test it? You write test cases for it then, that means. So critical scenarios or basic scenarios, basic features you take for smoke testing. But how do you test it? You are going to test the critical scenarios or the basic features of the application by writing test cases for it. So what do you say? You write smoke testing test cases. And those smoke testing test cases should be tested. Or rather the smoke testing test cases should be executed to check if the critical scenarios or the basic features are working fine or not. If the test cases fails, that's where you say that you have raised a bug. Okay, and those bugs are pertaining to your smoke testing phase, or those bugs that you are getting out are nothing but bugs of your smoke testing that you have conducted. And those bugs you raise it to whom? You raise it to the development side. And the developers are going to do what? They are going to rectify the bugs. How do they rectify the bugs? They rectify the bugs by rectifying the codes. And after rectifying the codes, they will intimate you, they will intimate the tester that the rectification has happened, and then the testers will do what? Retesting. Retesting means what? Again executing those test cases for all those critical scenarios or basic features of smoke testing for which you had got bugs. So retesting is a procedure to retest the same test cases for which you had got bugs. So that is what happens in your smoke testing phase. You are going to basically write down test cases for your critical scenarios or basic features, execute those test cases, find bugs for in your application related with your smoke testing, report those bugs to the development side. The development side is going to do rectification of those bugs and then give a report back to the testing side that the rectification has happened, and then as a tester you are going to retest the application to execute the same test cases for which you have got bugs in the smoke testing part. And when you say it is successful, it means all the test cases have passed for your smoke testing, and then you can enter your system testing phase. So the phase goes on like this. You basically write down test cases. Now who's going to write down test cases? Testers. This is I am speaking about your smoke testing. You are writing test cases for critical scenarios. Or basic features. Basic features of the application. This is, I'm just telling you this process of your smoke testing, and this process which I'm speaking in terms of smoke testing will remain true for other types of testing also conducted, be it integration, be it unit, be it your system testing phase, be it your user acceptance testing phase. This process will remain same. So you are going to write, so let's say I am in smoke testing. What I am going to do? I'm going to write test cases. The testers are going to write test cases for the critical scenarios of the basic features, because in smoke testing we are going to only test the critical scenarios or the basic features. So that's why I am only going to write down test cases for the critical scenarios of basic features as far as smoke testing is concerned. Then what I will do as a tester? Execution of test case. Execution of what? These test cases that you are writing are nothing but smoke testing test cases. So you will execute. Execution of test cases will happen. You will execute these test cases on the application. Okay. This execution will be done by the testers. And after that, what you will do? Report bugs. When do you report bugs? When there is a failure of test cases. So let's say there is a failure of test cases pertaining to your smoke testing. So you report bugs. So the testers are going to report bugs. Okay. Now after you report bug as a tester, this report is going to go where? This report is going to go to the development side. So the development side are going to take these bugs that has been reported, and the development side is going to rectify bugs. Now rectification of bugs is carried by whom? By the development side. Now after rectification of the bugs, the development side is going to report back to the testing side that the bugs have been rectified. Report on rectification. So once the bugs has been rectified, now rectification of bugs means you have rectified the codes. Please understand that. So you report on rectification. Okay, and this report is done by whom? By the development side, and this report is sent to whom? To the testing side. So based on this report, the testing side is going to do retesting, or in other words is also known as regression testing. Okay, so this retesting, regression testing is done by the testing side again, so by the testers. So that is how it is happening. So you are going to retest or going to conduct regression testing for all those test cases which had failed, and because of the failure of the test cases you had reported bugs. So once the reported bugs were rectified by the development side, and after rectification the report comes back to the testing side that these are the number of bugs that has been rectified within development side, the testing side is going to do retesting. In the retesting scenario, the testers are going to execute again those test cases for smoke testing which had bugs earlier, to check that the bugs have been rectified or not. Once you find out in the retesting phase or in the regression testing phase that yes, all the test cases are working fine, that means all the test cases have passed, you can say that smoke testing is successful. Then you can enter your system testing phase. Now the process that I have told you, smoke testing, that is you're writing your test cases or execution of test cases, reports of bugs, rectification of bugs, reports on rectification, and then retesting or regression testing, not only holds good for smoke testing, it will hold good for unit testing phase, it will hold good for your integration testing phase, it will hold good for your system testing phase, it will hold good for your UAT, that is user acceptance testing phase. This process remains common, but I told you this process today because I wanted to explain you what is part of any testing that is conducted. Any testing that you conduct will have this process of writing your test cases, execution of the test cases. If the test cases fails, you report bugs. Then the development side is going to rectify the bugs by how they are rectifying bugs. The development side is going to rectify the codes. Then after rectification of the codes, they will report back on the rectification to the testing side, and then the testing side is going to do regression and retesting. Please keep it in your mind that this process remains common across all the phases of your testing. This is a common process. I told you about smoke testing, but it will remain true for all the phases of your testing. Okay. Now the second thing is that for smoke testing, you are writing test cases for critical scenarios or basic features. That does not mean for other types of testing or for other phases of testing, you will write test cases only for critical scenarios or basic features. This is prevalent, or this is true only for smoke testing, that you write test cases only for critical scenarios or basic features. That does not hold true for other types of testing or other phases of testing. Please understand that. Please keep it in mind. Okay, so let us go forward now. I'm emphasizing on smoke testing because this is what you're supposed to do as a black box tester, and that is what you're getting trained for. So as part of your black box testing, you're supposed to do integration testing, you're supposed to do smoke testing, you're supposed to do your system testing, and you're supposed to do UAT. Now, as part of your system testing phase, you're supposed to do smoke testing. That is one of the entry criteria, one of the important entry criteria to enter your system testing phase. So that's why I'm very much specific on what I'm trying to tell you. Now, other thing I would like to tell you about this particular type of testing, that is smoke testing, is that you are calling the smoke testing as sanity as well as build verification. Sanity or build verification. Now, the basic funda to conduct smoke testing is to check the stability of the build. A build is nothing but a executable. A build is nothing but an application. A build is nothing but, it can be a part of the application also. So a build is something which is nothing but a executable. It is a full application by itself, or it is a part of the application. Okay, so you want to check the stability of the build. That is the important criteria of your smoke testing, which I told you yesterday also. Stability of build needs to be seen. Now, how do you check the stability of the build? You write down test cases for all. You write down test cases for all critical scenarios or basic features, and then you execute those test cases, and then you find out if the test cases have passed or failed. If it is a failure, that means you have to report the bugs. If it is a passing, if all the test cases are passing, that means the smoke testing has passed. So basically you are trying to check the stability of the build. Okay, stability of the build means what? You're going to check the basic features or the critical features of the application, and if it is passing, if the test cases for your basic features or your critical scenarios are passing, that means your build is stable. That's what you mean by stability of the build. Now, please understand one more thing. Now, I'll add on from yesterday's session. Some companies call it as a smoke testing. Some companies call it as a sanity testing. Some companies will call it as a build verification testing. Okay, it depends on the company to company basis what they call this particular type of testing. Okay, now generally the history of smoke testing is something like that. The word smoke testing actually came to the market from the hardware industry. In the hardware industry, like your manufacturing units, they used to basically, just hold on for a sec. So the term smoke testing has come to the market because of certain things which were taken from the hardware industry. Hardware industry means the manufacturing units. What kind of manufacturing unit? The PCB, the PC boards. You see a computer have a motherboard, right? So how does the motherboard look like? So if I can tell you, just let me open and show you a motherboard in your Chrome browser. I'll try to show you a motherboard. So in the hardware industry, the manufacturing units like your PC motherboards or silicon boards, they used to do what? The manufacturing used to happen for these boards, and after that the testing used to happen of these boards. So what they used to do is put these boards directly to the electrical sockets. So they will plug in those PC boards or those silicon boards directly to the electrical sockets and switch it on. If the smoke used to come out of the PC boards or out of the silicon boards, they used to say that the smoke testing has failed. So I'll first show you a silicon board or a PC board. So this is the image of a silicon board or a PC board. This is the motherboard, if you can see it. So this is called a PC board or a silicon board, which you find inside your computer, which you find inside any electrical device right now. This is a circuit board rather. So all these manufacturing units which used to basically develop this kind of, manufacture this kind of boards, after manufacturing they used to give it for testing in the hardware industry. And what they used to do is plug in these PC boards or silicon boards or circuit boards inside the electrical sockets. Now they used to basically see if smoke is coming out or not. If smoke was coming out, that means they used to say that the smoke testing has failed. If after connecting these PC boards to the electrical sockets and no smoke is coming out, then they used to say that the smoke testing has passed. These PC boards, if you see, can consist of a lot of things. They consist of capacitors, they consist of, you see this is a chip. This is a chip, these are capacitors, there are inductors also out here, there is a motherboard, mother chip out here, you have transistors also out here, we can see it. These are not semiconductor devices, nothing, these transistor semiconductor devices. So these are basically integrated together to call it as a PC board or a silicon board. And these silicon boards, these all components of your motherboard like your capacitors and inductors are connected through these lines, if you can see it. These lines are nothing but your silicon lines. Okay. Now what they used to do is plug in this particular boards and they used to check if the smoke is coming out. If the smoke did not used to come out, that means they used to say that the smoke testing has passed. Otherwise they used to say if the smoke is coming out, they used to say the smoke testing has failed. The same concept was taken in your software industry, but the concept was basically the same concept is taken, but concept was taken by the software industry and tweaked based on what this software industry would like to have. So what they use, how do they use smoke testing as far as software industry is concerned? They take it into consideration that if the stability of the build is there, you get a build. Build is nothing but a EXE or a executable or a part of the application, or it's a full application by itself. You get a build, the first thing that you do is test the basic features of it or the critical scenarios of that particular application or that particular build. And if you say that the critical scenarios are passing or all the basic features are completely working fine, you say that this smoke testing has passed for that particular build. Okay, and that's how you say that if it is passing, all the test cases that you have written for critical scenarios or for basic features are passing, you say in your software industry, you say smoke testing has passed. If one of the test cases is also failing for your smoke testing, you say that smoke testing has failed. Okay, and you cannot enter your system testing phase. Some companies call it as a sanity testing, some companies call it as a build verification testing. Build verification means verifying the build. Verifying the build in terms of what? In terms of checking that the stability is there of the build or not. So that's what smoke testing is all about. Go forward. The next kind, go forward with other types of testing conducted as part of your system testing phase. So other type of testing which is conducted as part of your system testing phase is functional testing. Now if you can basically see the screen, it means that testing each and every functionality of an application is called as functional testing. Okay, and in functional testing you see there are three kinds of testing conducted, sub-testings of sub-phases of your or subtypes of your functional testing. That is your GUI, usability and functionality testing. Now further, let us first understand the meaning of functional testing. Test. What you're going to test? You're going to test each and every functionality of an application. That's what you're going to do in terms of your functional testing. And in your functional testing, you're also involving you're also involving what do you say, your GUI testing, you're also involving usability testing, you're also involving functionality testing. Okay, let me, yeah, then I can use my pen. Yeah, so as part of your I don't know, the pen is not working right now for the software. So anyway, let us move forward. And so as far as your functional testing is concerned, you're going to test each and every functionality of the application. It primarily means what? You're going to write down test cases for the functional behavior of the application. You're going to execute your test cases and then you're going to basically see if all the test cases are passing or not. Same thing what I told you about your smoke testing. The same process will happen for your functional testing. Now functional testing means what? That is the question. I will answer your questions at the end of the session. Jayashree, I'll answer to you later on. Let me please complete my session. Then you can ask me any question that you want. Usman and Jayashree. Let me go forward with functional testing right now. So what happens is you are going to conduct functional testing to check the functionality of the application. Functionality means what? Let us take again, let's say a login screen, a Gmail login screen. What do you see in the login screen? You see a username edit box, you see a password edit box. Let me try to figure it out by showing you rather. So if it is, this is my Gmail application, for example. So if this is my Gmail application, I'm going to first give what? My username and my password. So I'm going to give my username. This is an email section, is nothing but the username. I have to give my password. I have to sign in. I have to click on the sign in button and I have to get inside the inbox page. Then only I'll get my inbox page. So I give a correct username and a correct password. Then only I can get my inbox page. I can also have I do also have a need help link. The need help link is nothing but if I click on that, it's going to show me steps to rectify my signing in problems. So if I have a sign in problem, these are the steps through which I can sign in if I am not able to sign in to my account. Similarly, I can also create an account. You have a create an account link also as part of your login screen of your Gmail application. This is a create an account where you have the first name, last name. You can choose your username, choose your password, give you all the other stuffs and register yourself to open up a Gmail account. Now let us understand functionality. So I told you about functional testing, each and every functionality of the application. So what do you mean by that? Let us take the login screen. Email will have its own functionality. This email is basically an edit box. You can write anything, you can use a backspace, edit anything and rewrite again. Okay, password. And similarly the username that you are using, it has to be in a particular format. It has to have @ as a special character. It has to have .com as the last character, and also it will support certain kind of character. You can use an alphanumeric character, alphabetical character as part of your username, and it will support the maximum number of characters allowed for this username field. Similarly, password. The password will support an alphanumeric character or an alphabetical character, okay, or a special character based on what the application requirement is. And the password will always be shown in your encrypted format. You don't see the password that you are typing. And also there will be a scenario in which it will define the maximum number of password or the minimum number of password that are allowed for a particular application. So Gmail will also have some kind of rules to define your password. So these rules that you are defining for your username, for your password, these rules that you're defining for password is nothing but the functions on which these buttons are working. These are nothing but buttons. These are nothing but GUI. So username is a GUI. Password is a GUI. A GUI is also called a control. So you can call this username also as a control, or this password also as a control. So each and every control. So this particular login screen has a username control, has a password control, has a sign-in control, has a need help link control, create an account link control. These are all controls. Each control will have certain functions. These functions are nothing but rules through which these functions are nothing but rules through which these functions needs to work. And these rules will specify the boundary or the demography of the application, the boundary of the application, because any rule that you define is nothing but you are defining the boundary. So this application login page will have certain rules. That means the login page has some boundary, and these rules that you are defining for each of these controls are nothing but the functions through which these controls will work. Similarly, sign in button. If you give a correct username and password and you click on the sign in, it will open up your inbox page. Similarly, if I give an incorrect username or an incorrect password, I will click on the sign in button. It will not open my inbox page. It will tell you a message that please give a correct username or password. That's the functionality or the rule of the sign in button. The sign in button allows you to enter into the inbox after you have clicked on that first. Other rule or function of your sign in button is that you give the correct username and password, then only you click on that, and then only the sign in button will allow you to go inside the inbox page. Similarly, there's a rule for need help, there's a rule for create an account. So these rules are nothing but functions of the application. Similarly, other functions of this Gmail application, the moment you give a correct username and password and you click on the sign button, it opens up a new page, and that new page is nothing but your inbox page. For example, I give a correct username and correct password. Let me give a correct password to it. So I have given a correct username and a correct password. The functionality of the sign in button is that it will open the inbox page. But once it is opening the inbox page, it means it is not opening the same page that you get for login. It is opening a new page, which is an inbox page like this. Okay, this is how it is opening your inbox page. So this is a new page by itself. The functionality of the new page is again different. It will have a functionality for compose. It will have a functionality for your inbox. You can see if there's a functionality for start. You will see all the start emails out here. Plus you will see all the important mails out here. If you click on the important folder, then there's a functionality for a send mail also. All the mails that I have sent will be sent as part, will be shown as part of my send mail. So each of these have a particular functionality. Inbox has a certain functionality, start folder has a particular functionality, important has a particular functionality. These are nothing but functions inside the inbox page. Similarly, I can use the function of logging out also. This is a sign out button. So I sign out, I get out my login page again. This is the functionality of the sign out button. So that is what a functionality would mean. And that is what I am trying to tell you. This is what you mean by functional testing. You are going to take and test each and every functionality of the application. So each and every functionality, some functionalities I have told you about certain controls of your Gmail, controls that are present in your login page of your Gmail, controls that are present in your inbox page of your after you have logged in successfully. Now functionality would also mean you are basically doing a GUI testing. Now what do you mean by a GUI testing? The full form of GUI testing is graphical user interface. So on what parts of the application would you do a GUI testing? Okay, for example, I want to do a GUI testing. Where will I do it? Okay, now let us understand this. This is a control. That means this is a GUI. Okay, now what are the components through which I will do GUI testing? Yes, obviously, as I told you, for this, all these controls have certain functions, correct? Where are the functions defined? These functions would be defined in the requirement document. Simple. I told you that email, it will have certain type of character. It should have @ special character. It should have .com. Minimum number of characters would be allowed for a email control, for a email GUI. Minimum number of characters, maximum number of characters. Similarly, I told for password also, you should have an encrypted format. It will allow certain type of character, that is alphanumeric or numeric character. Minimum number of characters, maximum number of characters will be also allowed in your password. Where are these functions defined? I told you about the function, but it is defined in your requirement document, and it is always that all whatever testing you want to do, GUI testing, functional testing, integration testing, system testing phase, everything of testing would be defined as part of your documents, requirement documents, or it will be your design documents, or it will be the parts of your requirement document like your BRS or SRS. So all these things which I am telling you as far as your functionality testing or the functions of these controls, or how would you conduct GUI testing? Okay, because let's say email is a GUI. This is basically a GUI. What kind of user interface? It's an edit box. Password is also an edit box UI, user interface. Sign in, it's also a UI. What kind of UI it is? It's basically a button. Similarly, create an account. What kind of UI it is? It is basically nothing but a link. Need help is also a linked type of UI. Stay signed in is basically also an UI, which is a checkbox. You can check and uncheck. So the requirements for the UI is also defined in the requirement documents or in the design documents very precisely. Please keep it in your head. Any kind of testing that you do, you have to refer the requirement documents to do that particular kind of testing, or you have to refer the design document for doing that kind of testing. Okay. Now go back now. In functionality testing, as I told you, you do GUI testing. What will you do in GUI? This is also a UI. This is also a GUI. 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 So anything that you see in this particular screen will have certain controls or certain GUI components. So you will do GUI testing to check the properties of the control. So when you are basically testing or checking the properties of the control, you call it as a GUI testing. Okay. GUI testing is also one of the testing conducted inside your system testing phase. So this is what GUI testing means. Testing the look and feel of the application is your GUI testing. How does it application look? Is it soothing to your eye? Are the colors good? Are the colors soothing? Are you able to write properly in an edit box? Are you able to edit the data that you have entered in the edit boxes? Are you able to check and uncheck in a checkbox? Are you able to click on a link and the link is opening a new page? For example, I clicked on a need help link. Is it opening a new page? Similarly, if I click on a create an account, it is opening a new page or not? How does the font look like? Font of this particular text that is written. What is the font size of this? What is the font color of this particular image? This is an image of Gmail. How do you say it is an image? If you hover your mouse over this and you right click, you will see save image. That means that's an image. Similarly, if I hover my mouse over this particular text called one account all of Google, is it a text or an image? Just right click and check. It's a text by itself because you don't see the option of image, save image as. It is showing you that what it is. Now, where are these? That means every UI control that you see in this particular screen, email or password is a UI control or a UI, sign in is a UI or a control, create an account is a link type of UI or a control. So all these have certain properties. They will have properties like what? Email will have properties like your font size, font type, what kind of font it will support. This is the font type it is supporting. Okay, how do you see the fonts? If you go, let's say you are in your PPT, Microsoft PPT, these are the fonts. So if I am writing something out here, I am writing in a particular font. This font is your Perpetua. Similarly, I can change the font also. I can change the font to, let's say, Franklin Goethio book. The font will change. So I can basically change the font of what I am trying to write down. I can make it back to Perpetua. Similarly, I can change the font to, let's say, Tahoma. Yeah, Tahoma is out here. So I can change the font. This is nothing but a font is. Okay, so this is that. So every control or every GUI will have certain kind of font. So it will have properties like your font type, font size, font color. What is the background color of the screen? White or gray? Okay. What is the background color of this particular, what is the background color of the screen? So similarly, what is the color of this particular UI control? What is the width of this UI control? Width means this is the width. From here to, from this corner to this corner, this is the width. What is the height? This is the height of this particular control. From here, so from here to here, this is the height. What is the width? This is the width. Other properties of this particular control, what is the x coordinate of this particular control? Now how is the x coordinate calculated? The x coordinate is calculated with, if you can see my mouse, I'm just putting my mouse in the left hand topmost corner. This is considered as the 0th unit, and this is considered at the x-axis, this is considered as the y-axis. Okay, and with this x-axis and y-axis, so it's something like this. If my pen is working, yeah, so this is considered as my 0th unit, and this is considered as your x-axis, and this is considered as my y-axis of the screen, y-axis. Now what is the x coordinate and y coordinate of this particular control? The x coordinate and the y coordinate is calculated from here. So this becomes your x coordinate of the control called email. And this becomes your, sorry, my lines are very going here and there. It should be a straight line. So this is called your y coordinate, or the y coordinate of the email control or the email GUI or UI, whatever you can call it as. So this is the X and Y coordinates. So properties of a email control, it can have a font color, it can have a font size. Font color means the color of the font. Font size means the color of the font. Okay, the size of the font. Then it will have a font type. I showed you what is a font type in your PPT. Then other properties of this control can be a width. Now what is the width? What do you mean by a width? Width can be from, let's say, this corner to this corner. This is the width. What do you mean by height? This is the height. And then you will have label. What is the label of this UI, or what is the label of this control? The label of this control is email. That is what you see. This is the label of this particular control. The label of this particular control is called email. Okay, so these are the properties of a email control, of a email GUI. Similarly, password will have certain properties. What kind of properties the password will have? The same kind of properties. When you are testing these kind of properties, you are doing UI testing, or also known as GUI testing. So GUI testing involves testing the properties of the controls present in a screen. It also means that you are testing the look and feel of the application. Look and feel means what? It's something like how does the application look? Is it soothing to your eye? For example, are the colors soothing to you? Is the background color soothing to you? Is the font size soothing to you? Soothing means what? It does not create any kind of problem to use the application. So if it is soothing to your eye, you get attracted to the application. You start using the application. So is the color soothing? Is the font size soothing? Is the font type soothing? Is the background color soothing? Are the text visible to you? Are all the controls placed in a proper manner? That means all the controls are not getting outside of the screen. For example, this email control, do you see it outside of the screen? You don't see it. If it is outside of the screen, how will you log into the application? So that's what you mean by look and feel. So look and feel means how soothing is it to you for its usage. Soothness will allow you to use the application. You get attracted to the application. Okay, so attraction of an application is nothing but how are the controls placed? Are the controls placed logically? Are the properties of the control fine or not? Is it the properties are looking? Because if the properties of the controls are fine, that means it is soothing to your eye. For example, property of email control. It has a particular font size, font type, font color, background color, label, X coordinate, Y coordinate, width, height, and there are other properties also of email. I just told certain properties. So it is soothing means what? These properties are well defined, and that's why it looks good to you. The email control looks good to you, and that is why you will use the application. Similarly, you will have a properties of password. These password will make that particular control soothing to your eye. So in totality, are all the controls soothing for usage? If all the controls are soothing for your eye, you will get attracted to use the application. For example, the text. If you are not able to see the text, you will see what is written out there. Why should I use that particular, why should I read that particular text? But this text is soothing. How do you know it is a text? Just right click and see. It does not show it is an image. But if you right click on this Google, you see this is an image. So all the controls that you see, even if the image is, where is the image present? Where is the text present? Where are the controls present? Is it getting out of the screen or not? Then if it is getting out of the screen, that means it is not soothing to your eye. So the UI testing is nothing but you are testing the look and feel of the application. How do you test the look and feel of the application? You are testing the properties of the controls present in that particular screen. Okay. Now let's say Where are these properties written? These properties are written as part of your codes. Okay, but as a black box tester, you're not supposed to test the codes. You're supposed to test the application from a end user perspective, and GUI testing is part of your system testing phase, and system testing phase is part of your black box testing. So you're not concerned with the codes. Okay, so that is what GUI testing is all about. You are basically testing the look and feel of the application. Okay, now for example, I have given an example: background color, as I told you, font size, font type, font style, alignment of the object. Alignment of the object means are all the objects are nothing but the controls only, the UI, the user interfaces only. So if the controls are present outside of the screen, you are not able to see it. What is the usage? It is not soothing to your eye. Okay, if it is not soothing to your eye, if the controls are getting out of your screen of your computer, your GUI testing is supposed to fail. The next question arises, what do you do in GUI testing? The same thing that you do for smoke testing. You write down test cases for your GUI testing. You execute those test cases. If the test cases fails, you have to report bugs for your GUI testing. And when you report bugs for your GUI testing, you are reporting it to the development side. The development side is going to rectify those bugs. And as a tester, the report is given after rectification. And then you are supposed to do regression or retesting. And this process I have shown you for your smoke testing also, and that's prevalent for any kind of testing that you do. Wherever you are whichever phase you are in the unit testing phase, you are in the integration testing, system testing, or UAT, you're supposed to conduct that particular process. Okay, so that is what your GUI testing is. So GUI testing is part of your functional or functionality of the application needs to be taken. Next is a usability testing. Usability means what? Usefulness of the application. How much the application is useful to you. How much is this application useful to you? So in terms of definition, usability is nothing but user friendliness of the application. How much the application is useful to you, how much it is friendly to you. If the application is friendly to you, it becomes easier for you to understand the application. It becomes easier for you to use the application. Okay, that is what you mean by user friendliness. So friendliness means what? User friendliness means how much it is friendly so that you can use it with minimum understanding. Friendliness will also mean how much you are going to understand the application. So minimum usage to use the application, how much friendly it is for you to show you with minimum steps you can use the application. That's what usability means. User friendliness means defines the usability. Some of the examples of usability: shortcut keys, for example, or tooltips for the objects. Objects are nothing but controls or UI, or objects arranged correctly. So these are part of a usability. Coming back to it, shortcut keys. For example, I have a PPT, Microsoft presentation. What are the shortcut keys which are present? Or let me not take a PPT, let me take a notepad. So what are the shortcut keys present? The shortcut keys are nothing but Control N. If you see, Control N will open up a new notepad. Then Control O, it will open up an existing notepad that you have set. And then Control S. Control S is basically used for saving an application, or saving this notepad. Similarly, use Control P. Here Control P will be used to print an application. Similarly, for edit, for cutting a particular, let's say a paragraph you want to cut, you have to use Control X. For pasting it, you have to use Control V. For copying a particular line, you can use Control C. If you want to basically undo or edit that you want to do, you have to use Control Z. So these keys, these things what you are seeing, which are used with your Control plus Z, Control plus X, Control plus C, and nothing but shortcut keys or hotkeys. So instead of using the, let's say I want to save, I want to open a new notepad, I'll click on the new button. So instead of clicking on the new button, I can use, let's say, Control N, directly control, the control key and the N key, and it'll open up a new notepad. Similarly, I want to save, what I need to do, Control S. Okay, if I have clicked on Control and S, it is asking me to save it on a particular path. I want to basically cut a particular line of code, I have to use Control X. I have to paste a particular line of code, I have to use Control V. I have to copy a particular line of code, I'll use Control C. So these are nothing but your shortcut keys. In order to, so every application will have certain shortcut keys for certain functionalities to be happening. Okay, and these shortcut keys needs to be tested as part of your usability testing, because these shortcut keys are nothing but the friendly affair or the friendly part of the application. So instead of using the functionality like your save, open, cut, copy, paste, you can directly use the shortcut keys and it will do the same thing as it is intended to do. And if you are testing the shortcut keys, you are doing usability testing. Then you say, as part of your usability testing, you are supposed to do tooltips. Now what do you mean by tooltips? Let us understand and open a Gmail login page. Now what is the tooltip out here? Let me open it if it is trying to open. Okay. Or not, let me show it in your, I need to show you some application where I can show you a tooltip. Let me try to open one app for you guys through which we can show you some tooltip. Or let's say let me try to open a website called rediff.com and show you some tooltips. Okay, I'll show you. I don't know if I am able to show you. Okay. I'm still trying to get something through which I can show you a tooltip. No, I cannot show you. But yes, tooltip, I'll try to explain you, then I can, if I have some application, I can show you also. Let me see if I can show you out here. Just give me some time, guys. I'm trying to explain you what is a tooltip. So I'm not getting an application right now. So let me tell you what is a tooltip. Certain, say you have controls in an application, right? Now, as a first-time user, how would you know what is the control used for? What is the usage of that particular control? Okay, so what you do is you hover your mouse to that particular control. It will come out with a kind of write-up. If you see, that write-up is a tooltip that will give you tips to use that particular control. It will tell you tips that what is the usage of that particular control. So sometimes what you get is basically when you hover your mouse over a particular control, it will give you a particular write-up. That write-up is nothing but a tooltip which will tell you what is the usage of that particular control, or how will you use that particular control, or how will you use that particular UI. Okay, so if you are basically testing the tooltips for the controls or for the objects, that's part of your usability testing. Now please understand, usability testing is also conducted as part of your system testing phase. And third thing which I have given out here is object arranged correctly or not. That means, are the objects arranged correctly? Is it going out of the screen? If it is basically haphazardly placed. Okay, for example, these are the objects, these are the controls of the PowerPoint presentation. These are basically placed in a proper manner. If it is haphazardly placed, you see home button out here, and you see the insert button somewhere in the left hand side, right hand side, and you see the slide show button in the left hand side. It is haphazardly placed. That is not how it should be placed. So usability testing is basically done to check the user friendliness of the application. How much the application is user friendly. Similarly, let's say I am the first time user of the application. Then I would not know how to use the application. Then the user friendliness of the application will tell me how to use it. The user friendliness is nothing but the shortcut keys will tell you how to use certain functionalities. The tooltips. So let's say you hover your mouse out here. Sometimes you'll see. This is a tooltip now. This tooltip happened. So I just hovered my mouse in hyperlink button. It showed me create a link to a web page, a picture, an email address, or a program. That means you can create a link for a web page, for a picture, or for an email address. That is a tooltip given for the hyperlink button. Good. This particular tooltip is being shown now. Press F1 for more help. So this is basically a tooltip which will tell you what is the functionality, what is the usage of this particular control. Similarly, I hover my mouse in actions. This is a tooltip for action. Add an action to the selected object to specify what should happen when you click on it. Similarly, let's say I hover a mouse on table. So what is the tooltip? Insert or draw a table into the document. So this is the tooltip. Either you get a tooltip by hovering it over the particular control, or hovering it hovering your mouse on that particular control or UI. Or sometimes what you need to do is, some tooltips will not be shown when you hover your mouse. You have to right click and then it will ask you for show you a tooltip when you right click. So most of the time when you hover your mouse over the particular control, it is going to show you the tooltip. This is a tooltip for picture. Insert a picture from a file. This is a tooltip for an embedded flash, or for a, let's say, text box. What is the tooltip? Insert a text box into the document or add text to the selected place. So this tooltip testing is also done as part of your usability testing, in which you check the usefulness or the user friendliness of the application. Okay, so that's what you mean by tooltips. So you are going to test these tooltips as part of your usability testing. Third thing, objects arranged correctly. Are the objects correctly or not? Is it basically placed haphazardly in your screen or not? If it is placed haphazardly, you will get difficulty in using the application, because any application will have a certain set of flow. If the flow is not defined correctly, you will have problems in using it. Similarly, these flows of the application are dependent on certain buttons. So certain buttons will take you from one page to another page, for example. Now if the button is not placed correctly on your screen, you will find it difficult to use the application and to get to the next flow of the page for a particular application. That is what means object arranged correctly. Tooltip can also mean the help files. For example, PPT will also have a help file. If I go to home and I go to, for example, I go to out here, this question mark. If I click on this question mark, it is going to ask me for Microsoft Office PowerPoint help. These help files are nothing but the files through which you can understand the usage of the application. You can understand the usefulness of the application. So these are nothing but user friendliness. So user friendliness of the application can be tested by testing the shortcut keys, by testing the tooltips, by testing the objects and nothing but controls are arranged correctly or not, or by testing these help files. These are nothing but the help files for a Microsoft PowerPoint application. The help files will tell you the ways to use the application. Similarly, you will also have a tab button. For example, you will have a tab button and you want to basically move from one control to another. For example, so this is a tab. So I can move from one control to another control using the tab button. For example, if you open the Gmail login page, you can move from the username control to your password control using the tab button. Okay. User friendliness is also seen by checking a fact that if you are opening the application, where is the cursor blinking? So let's say you open the Gmail application and you open the login page of Gmail, the cursor should blink. The cursor should blink in your username field. Okay, and then you can use the tab button to move your cursor from username field to the password field. But this moving of the cursor should happen logically. Generally, when a cursor is moved using the tab button, it moves from top to down and left to right. That is the nomenclature of how a cursor should move. So the left to right will be put higher up in the nomenclature, top to down will be put lower up in the lower part of your nomenclature. So if you have controls placed from left hand side of the screen to the right hand of the screen and use the tab button, the cursor would move from the left hand side, the leftmost part of the control, to the rightmost part of the control, and then it will move from top to down. I can show you what do you mean by navigation of the cursor through the tab button. If we have the privilege of opening the Chrome browser, and opening the screen for the Gmail application. So this is the screen of it. So the moment I open my login page from your Gmail, yeah, Sureka, you've asked me a question in google.com. When we put mouse on Google, it shows Google text. So that's a tooltip. That means it is telling you that's a text. Now let me open. I've opened the. I will answer to your question at the end. I'm just finishing my session. So this is a login page of a Gmail application. Let's say this is the login page. So if you see the login page, by automatically the cursor blinks in the email control. That is the usefulness of the application. I don't have to move my mouse when I open the page and move my mouse to the email control. Now if I use a tab button, the control will move from email to password. You see that? That's happening. And after that, I can use again the tab button to move my mouse from password to sign in. Now it is basically sign in on which the highlight has happened. Then I can again move my tab. Now you see the stay signed is getting highlighted. And after that, if I again use my tab, it goes to need help. Again, see, you see it has gone to need help. It is highlighting. Then again use my tab, it goes to create an account. Again use my tab to highlight. To highlight the URL. Again use my tab. It is highlighting something. I don't know what is highlighting. Yeah. So this is, it has come back to email. So this is what a navigation of moving from one control to another through the tab button. Okay. Similarly, usefulness will also be when you open the login page, automatically the cursor blinks in the email. Okay, that's also usefulness. So then you use the tab button to navigate your cursor from one control to another. It should navigate in what nomenclature? Left to right and then top to button. Now there's no controls which are present to the right of email control. That's why if it is not present, it will move from top to down now. So it will move to password. Again use the tab button. It is highlighting the sign in page. Again move the tab button. It is now highlighting the stay signed on. Now again you click on the tab button. It is highlighting the need help. Again you use the tab button. It is highlighting the click an account, create an account. So this is what is the movement of the cursor from one control to another using the tab button. That's also usefulness. Okay. Similarly, other usefulness, as I told you, are the shortcut keys. You test the shortcut keys, that is usefulness. You test the navigation of the cursor from using the tab button, that is usefulness. Help files, you test the what is present inside the help files. Now that is also usefulness. Help files help you to use the application. So if you want to test the help files, that is also usefulness. That is also usability testing. So usability testing would involve you to basically test what? It will help you to test not only the shortcut keys defined for the application, it will also help you to find and test the tooltips. Plus if the objects are arranged correctly around, that means the controls are arranged correctly. It can also involve your testing help files. It can also involve navigation flow of cursor, navigation flow of cursor using the tab button. It can also involve to see where is the cursor blinking after you open the application. The cursor should blink in the first control, blinking of cursor. Blinking of cursor in first control. When you open the application, the first control is the control which can be present in the topmost left hand corner, because as you see the nomenclature I told you, the cursor moves from left to right and then from top to down. So if any control or any UI is present in the topmost left hand corner, that is the control on which the cursor should blink when you open the application for the first time. For a Gmail application, if you see it, for a Gmail application, there's no control present in this particular part. You don't see any control present in this particular part. This is the topmost left-hand corner. If some control is present out here, the cursor should blink out here. But what do you see out here? You see that the first control that you see, it is present in your in the middle of the screen, and is your email. So that's why when you open, let's say if I close this particular control application, okay, or let's say I refresh this particular application, you will see the blinking of the cursor directly in the email control, because that is the first control at the middle. Then it will move, there's no control to the right of it. It will move the cursor from left top to down then. So use the tab button, it will move down. So this is what usefulness means. That is what you are supposed to do as part of your usability testing. So usability testing is usefulness of the application. That's part of your system testing phase conducted under your functional testing. Because as I told you, functional testing has certain parts, UI, which I told you, usability, and third is your functionality. So I will stop with functionality. Functionality testing is what? Testing the functional flow of the application. Okay. How do you test the functional flow? Field level testing and end-to-end testing. So I will tell you about this field level testing and end-to-end testing in the next session. But functionality testing rather, this is functionality testing, is testing the functional flow of the application. How does the application flow from one screen to another through the different controls? Because if you want to go from the inbox to the inbox page from your login page, you have to click on this submit button. For example, you give email and your password. The email is the username, the password is the password that you give. But if you want to move to inbox plate, you have to click on the sign in button. And this is what the flow of the application is. This is one page of the application. This is a login page. You want to flow or want to go to the inbox page, you have to click on the sign in button. So the flow of the application can be tested by doing functionality testing, which is part of your functional testing. So functional testing would involve you to test each and every functionality of the application. How do you test each and every functionality of the application? By doing GUI testing, by doing usability testing, by doing functionality testing. Functionality testing is functional flow, moving from one page of the application to another page with the use of certain controls, or with the use of certain buttons, or with the use of certain GUI. In functional testing, how do you check the functional flow? Using field level testing, using end-to-end testing. Okay, so this I will take it on tomorrow. So I have just told you about what is functionality testing. It is nothing but testing the functional flow of the application. How do you do testing of the functional flow? Field level testing and end-to-end testing. That I will tell you tomorrow. But this, please understand, if you are trying to do your functional testing, you are doing GUI, you are doing usability, you're doing functionality testing. Okay, so that stops your session for today. Tomorrow I'll start up with your functionality testing and tell you about your field level and end-to-end, and then move towards what is field level testing, how do you do it, and what is end-to-end, how to do it, then tell you about retesting, regression testing, exploratory, exhaustive, and ad hoc, compatibility, and that will end up your system testing phase. These are the different types of testing. So it is starting from here. So as part of your system testing phase, you are conducting these types of testing. The first thing that you do is smoke testing. If this fails, you're not supposed to enter system testing phase. If it passes, smoke testing passes, then you do the other types of testing that is your functional testing. Inside functional testing, you can do GUI, usability, functionality. You can also do retesting, exploratory, exhaustive, ad hoc. All these other types of testing can only be conducted once you have entered your system testing phase. Okay, so tomorrow I'll start up with your functionality testing, that is this one, which is part of your functional testing type. So I'll end the session today and you can ask me questions right now. So I'll unmute everybody so everybody can ask me questions. Usman, you can ask me questions. Jayshree, you can ask me questions right now.
Yes, I have only one question. When you check the functionality or the feature of the app, so do we have to write the test case for every feature?
Yes.
So
all testing should, any kind of testing that you do, you have to write down test cases. That's how you do testing.
No, I mean to say that if we are checking the features, like we are checking the submit the inbox feature and the outbox feature, so we have to write down the test case for each and every feature.
Yes, you have to write down test cases for each and every feature. For example, the submit button, okay, it will have requirements like the submit button is going to take you to the inbox page. That's a feature of the submit button. It takes you to the inbox page if you give the correct username and correct password. Similarly, it will have also, these are functional features I'm telling you. It will also have a functional feature which states that if you give an incorrect username or an incorrect password, under that circumstances, even if you click on the submit button, it will not take you to the inbox page but show you an error message. That's also a functional feature. What is a GUI feature of the submit button? The font size, font color, font size, font type, X coordinate, Y coordinate, width. Those are called GUI features of that submit button. Similarly, you will have usability features of the submit button. What are the usability features? The usability features can be the tooltip for that, or it can be what do you call the navigation flow or to the submit button from a particular control. Okay, that will be also a usability, and the help files will define the usage of the submit button. So if you are writing test cases for that, you are writing usability test cases for the submit button. Similarly, you will also have test cases for understanding the functionality behavior of the submit button. So it is basically creating a flow to take you to the inbox page. That's a functionality feature of the submit button. So each and every feature that you see in the application, each and every control that you see in the application will have its GUI, will have its functionality defined, will have its usability defined, will have its functions defined, and flows defined. So all these features will be pertaining or will need to be converted to a test case. And if you are basically testing the GUI features of the button, you are writing GUI test cases. If you are writing functional features of the button, you are writing test cases for functional features of the button. You are writing a test case for functionality, a functional behavior of the button. So you need to write down test cases for each and every feature, Usman.
Hello, sir.
Is it clear, Usman?
Are you able?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Please carry on.
Actually my question is on the smoke testing. I joined a little late, maybe you might have told. that the smoke testing is a testing of basic application. There is one sentence in your PPT, sir.
Basic features.
What
basic
is the
features?
Features, yeah, features. Can you elaborate on that one, sir?
Basic features means actually the critical scenario. For example, I am not able to log into the application. What further testing would I do if I am not able to log in? For example, I am not able to log into my Gmail, right? How do I log in? I give my username, password, I click on the submit button. It does not log in. If I if I am not able to log in, how will I test the features of my inbox page? I am not able to go forward in my application, and that's a showstopper. It is stopping the show. What kind of show? Usage of the application. So any showstopper that you see, anything which binds you to use the application is a failure of the smoke testing or the failure of the critical scenario. Similarly, for example, if I'm not able to log out, that's a security problem, correct? If it is I'm not able to log out, somebody can hack my computer or somebody can hack my account. That's a security problem. That's the failure of the critical feature. And I will not be able to use the app. I will never use the application if I'm not able to log out. So that's the showstopper that is stopping me to use the application. Similarly, if I am not able to send mails after login, correct? If I am not able to send mail, what is the usage of Gmail application? Correct? That means it is stopping me for using the application. So anything that is stopping me for using the application becomes a showstopper. That is nothing but the critical scenarios of the application. For example, let's take a ATM machine, correct? Simple. Everybody has a card. Everybody has a swipe card, a plastic card. What do you use an ATM machine for? If I ask you, the answer will be, I am using an ATM machine for withdrawing. I am using an ATM machine for, let's say, account-to-account transfer. I am using an ATM machine for getting a mini statement. I am using an ATM machine for balance inquiry. Let's say withdrawal. How do I withdraw? I have to log in. How do I log in? I give my card. I give my PIN. That's how the login procedure happens. Then what happens? It will ask me from which particular, what transaction do you intend to do. The US is supposed to choose a particular transaction like withdrawal. Then it will ask you what kind of account. Savings account, overdraft account, or current account. You say it's savings account. You choose savings account and you do get forward to enter the amount. And then it will ask you for a printout. You say yes or no. And then you say you want to do further transaction. You say no. Get your card out. Get your cash out. Get your printout statement. And that's a logout procedure. So anything, this is one of the criteria. So withdrawal scenario, for example, a withdrawal scenario will have a certain flow, correct? Similarly, let's say a mini statement will have a certain flow. You'll have a login, logout procedure obviously, but there's a certain flow of the application. Now if at any point of time, whatever flow I have told for withdrawal, you are not able to do that, that means you cannot do withdrawal correctly. For example, let's say I enter an amount, next screen does not come. What is the next screen? The moment I enter an amount, it will ask me, do you want a printout? If that does not come, I will not go further in the application. I will not be able to use the application further. Or for example, in the withdrawal scenario, it does not give me a screen to choose the type of account from which I want to get my money get my money. For example, I don't have the option, it doesn't show me a screen for choosing an option for either I want to withdraw money from savings or current or overdraft. How will I go forward in the application? How will I use the application? It is stopping me for using from using the application. That becomes a showstopper. So you don't get a screen which will ask you for options to choose a account from which you want to withdraw. That becomes a showstopper. That should not happen. That's a basic feature of the application flow in which you want to withdraw money for the withdrawal scenario. That's a critical scenario also, because you don't get the type of account you want to withdraw from. That's stopping you from using the application. So that becomes a showstopper for you, because that's a critical scenario a critical feature or basic feature of the application. So if that happens, you say your smoke testing has failure. You cannot use the application further to conduct functional testing or GUI testing or usability testing or any kind of testing under your system testing phase. So you are not supposed to enter the system testing phase when your smoke testing fails. So that is what you mean by critical scenario or basic features. If the basic features of the application is not working, how do you intend to use the application further? It will stopping you for using the application. And that is why you say that you have to stop your testing the moment smoke testing fails. You have to give it for rectification. And after rectification, when you find out in the retesting that you don't have any bugs pertaining to your smoke testing, then only you're allowed to enter system testing. Once you enter your system testing, you can do GUI testing, usability, and whatever I have taught you today, your functional testing, whatever it is.
Functional testing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Anybody else has any questions, please?
I have some questions. Kaushik?
Yeah, please ask me.
You're telling this functional testing, is it necessary to perform all these types of testing on an application or a module? Do we perform all this like ad hoc testing, functional,
No, generally as part of your system testing phase, important is your GUI, usability, functional testing, functionality testing, performance testing. Performance testing would include load testing, it will include your stress testing, soak testing. But please understand, in your system testing phase, performance testing is conducted only by performance testers. You have to have special skills for it. But as far as the general conditions lies for your system testing, that is a black box testing rather, you will do functional testing, UI testing, or usability testing. Similarly, as part of your system testing phase, you are supposed to do database testing also as a general tester. So certain things you will do as a general tester when you conduct system testing. So generally when you are a system tester or let's say a black box tester, you actually do functional testing, UI testing, usability testing, database testing, data validation testing, and your what do you call as that, as a regression testing. Regression testing remains common in across all the phases of your testing. Regression testing is very common. Regression testing or retesting is very common, and it is conducted in all the phases of your testing, be it unit, be it system testing phase, be it integration testing phase, be it UAT. But yes, as part of a general tester of your black box testing or a general tester who is doing system testing rather, who's a black box tester involved in your system testing phase, generally will do functional testing, functionality testing, usability testing, UI testing, database testing, data validation testing, definitely. Yes, you are a black box testers and you are in the system testing phase. You are trying to do performance testing, which includes load testing, soak testing, volume testing, stress testing. You are a performance tester by itself. You are not a general tester of the black box testing arena. Then you become a performance tester from the black box testing arena, in which you will do performance testing, which is part of your system testing phase. Is it clear?
Yep, got it. And moving forward, like if we like, you will give an application to write the test cases.
Yes, I will give you an application to test and write test cases for that.
And my question is that at a particular point of time, when we are writing the test cases, you would tell us that we are writing these for functional, these are for regression, these are for this.
Yes, I will tell you. I will tell you to write down test cases for all these types of testing which I see prevalent for you to learn. For example, if you know to write down functional and functionality testing test cases, it becomes easier to write down test cases for ad hoc testing. Ad hoc is what? It's a random behavior of testing, correct? So if you know to write down functionality testing test cases, ad hoc testing is easier to you. So I will not tell you to write down your ad hoc testing test cases. I will tell you, yes, as part of your training, I will tell you to write down all those test cases which will make your life easier to clear up your interview and to sustain your job when you get a job. For example, I'll tell you to write down functional test cases. I will tell you to write down GUI test cases. I will tell you to write down usability test cases. I will tell you to write down database testing test cases. I will tell you to write down performance related test cases also.
Okay.
And if you are physically covering all these things, you can also understand, you will automatically understand how to write down test cases for ad hoc testing, exploratory testing, exhaustive testing, all those other kinds of testing.
Okay.
Okay. Because I will tell you to write down, I will tell you to report bugs also.
Okay.
So that's how the training should be. Otherwise, it becomes difficult for you to actually reciprocate in terms of interview.
Okay. That's the problem, like with the previous trainer.
Okay. So you're Purnima, is it?
Yep.
Okay. So definitely that's part of your that should be part of your training, that I will give you an application. First of all, my process is something like I will give you a requirement document.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you to basically jot down the requirement scenarios, the requirements from that particular document. What are the important requirements? From the requirement, I will tell you to write down different kinds of test cases, and then tell you to report those bugs if you are raising after you execute those test cases on a bug tracking tool.
Okay.
And then you will see the whole process of how the testing is. Because testing is nothing. You have to basically write down test cases. That's a general job of a tester. Generally, write down test cases, execute it. Execution not proper, report it to a bug tracking tool. And after the bug tracking tool will be also seen by the development side. After rectification from the development side, you're supposed to retest the same bugs. Okay. And after the bugs are over, you say that the testing is over. That will involve your bug tracking tool. That will involve you to also understand how does the life cycle of a bug happens. Life cycle of a bug means you have a birth of a bug, you have a death of a bug. That's part of the curriculum actually. I'm going to tell you all this thing before I make you write down all these things and explain you and understand. You will also understand the process yourself when you go through this.
And Kaushik, I would like to ask you one more question. What is the duration of this course?
See, this particular course involves manual testing, Java, Selenium, framework, QTP, load runner on a basic front, and then your projects. So it will basically take, let's about, it is involving 38 classes minimum.
38 classes. One class would make
one class is obviously 1.5 to 2 hours, Purnima, and minimum 38 classes is 1.5 months of course.
Okay. So you will be asking questions regarding the previous class in the next class.
I generally give assignments. I will not ask questions. I will give assignments, and basically I will comment to those assignments which you can see in the site.
Okay. Thanks, Kaushik.
Yeah. Jayashree Usman, you have any other questions, or anybody else? Sunita, Surekha, anybody else has any questions? I don't see Yuxel today.
No, sir, no. Thank you.
Usman, you have any questions?
No question. No, not today.
Sunita, Surekha, you have any questions?
No, we don't have any questions, Kaushik.
Okay, so I'll end the session for today. Thanks for attending. I'll see you tomorrow evening.
Yes, thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks.